Still himself notes, "The originals, however ungrammatically written or erroneously spelt, in their native simplicity, possess such beauty and force as corrections and additions could not possibly enhance." While it may take the listener a little time to decipher some words in the text, this minor inconvenience is the least we can endure, considering the circumstances and larger historical context in which these letters were written. Given the time and space constraints, I have omitted a number of accounts and sections of the original text. To be clear, every fugitive, every account, every experience is singularly weighted with the heavy heart and soul of one's journey toward a more free place. In addition to privileging women's experiences, I also sought to include different kinds of journeys from a variety of locations. Although Still's text is also about the work of the Vigilance Committee, I have elected to omit a major section, Portraits and Sketches, that provides short biographies of some of the most famous and active black and white abolitionists of the 19th century. Many of these names, however, show up in the various accounts of fugitives' journeys. I accept sole responsibility for any errors or shortcomings in this curated edition. The stories in this book are gripping, heart-wrenching, and telling of the fortitude of those denied liberty. These are stories of the past, but we should not look past their illuminations on our present. Angela Davis's and Assata Shakur's fugitivity could be appended to this text. The stories of unarmed black men and women could, too, be appended to this text, as many have sought spaces something akin to freedom. Their road was more modern, but no more paved. Still's The Underground Railroad Records paradoxically hides and unveils the practice of freedom. Quincy T. Mills.
Introduction. When I was a child, one of my favorite field trips was from my Baltimore public school to the National Museum of Natural History at the Smithsonian in Washington. What I remember and what I loved best was the life-size dioramas of the past, still dramatizations of Neanderthals or watering holes somewhere on the savannah. Even then I was fascinated by history, a world that shaped my own, but that I could never visit. The dioramas, three-dimensional reconstructions of the past, were as close as I could ever get. The importance of that key word, reconstructions, I would not learn until much later. The problems inherent to reconstructing the past, the importing of modern prejudice and expectations, were all there in those dioramas depicting, for instance, the first meetings between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. But the inherent problem of Reconstruction isn't simply the importing of prejudice. The problem is in its promise that the past is a fixed entity and can be objectively reconstructed. But the truth is that the past can never be fully captured because the past no longer exists. All we have of it are the dramatizations we conjure, the dioramas we construct, the stories we tell. For most of American history, this country's historians and mythmakers have favored a particular story of the epic of enslavement and all that came of it. The story comes in two forms. At its most sympathetic, it features heroic whites, joined by pliant and accommodating blacks, triumphing over the worst of their bigoted brethren. The recurring vocabulary of this story features a vague love and shapeless hope, which somehow triumphed over a wild and virulent race hatred. In the worse version of the story, these haters are transformed into Arthurian knights, tragically defending an ancient and noble way of life, of which enslavement is but a small part. What each of these stories has in common is the inability to consider the enslaved as the hero of their own epic. But while these might be the best-known stories, they are not the only ones. From the time of their enslavement to this very day, black people have told different stories, ones that have not enjoyed the glamour.